Greetings and welcome to our daily walk through the scripture for February the 13th. Today's readings find us wrapping up Exodus chapter 35. Exodus chapter 36 we hit, and then we wrap up Matthew chapter 27, Psalm 34, and then we read verses 7 and 8 out of Proverbs chapter 9. Now, there are many strange accountings in the Gospels with regards to Jesus. Many things that he says that don't always make sense to us, and even events that occur. And the crucifixion has many of these things, many mysteries that are created in this, and many things that we look at and we just are like, what exactly is happening here, and what happens? And we have several of these things happening within just a few verses in Matthew chapter 27. When we look at verses 45 through 54, we see really honestly some crazy things happening. So let's dive into it and see if we can make you think and ponder about some things. So in verse 45, now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. So for about 3 hours there was some kind of eclipse. At about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I think for some of us, at least for me, I look at this and I go, why did Jesus say this? I mean, he's God. He knows that he's not abandoned. He knows that he's not gotten rid of. So why would he say this? I mean, I think there's a couple of trains of thought on this that can really maybe help shed some light on it. First of all, we do have to remember that Jesus, according to Philippians, that he willfully lessened himself. He set aside, he didn't remove them, but he willfully chose to not utilize his divine nature. This is one of the reasons that Jesus was allowed to be fully God and fully man. And we've seen, and we talked about in previous conversations, how Jesus at times did not access the divine side of him and instead allowed himself to be fully human. And so it's entirely possible that Jesus, and all of the things that he has experienced, did feel abandoned. He felt hurt, hopeless. He felt alone. And I think that is a completely reasonable experience. I mean, here is Jesus now. The people that were supposed to be his disciples have abandoned him. Peter himself not only abandoned, but denied him. We see that he has been beaten, abused, tormented. He has been all of these things. And now he is here hanging on a cross about to die. And so I think it's entirely appropriate for him to feel alone and abandoned. Yet the phrase that Jesus uses is one that's straight out of the Old Testament, straight out of a Psalm of David, and it points to some very important things. As we read Psalm 22, we see, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me for the words of my groaning? This is probably exactly how Jesus felt. Yet if you continue to read through Psalm 22, you see a couple of really amazing things. First of all, you see a lot of references to the crucifixion. You see here in verse 6, it says, scorned by mankind and despised by people, and all those who see me mock me. Okay? That's him. He trusts in the Lord, let him deliver him, let him rescue him. I mean, that sounds like if you are really the Son of God, why don't you cry out and get rescued? And while you're at it, rescue us. We hear that from the men hanging next to him. We also hear him talking about, I'm poured out like water. I'm melting. My heart is like wax. It talks about how they have pierced my hands and my feet. And they divide my garments among them. For my clothing they cast lots. All of these are really close parallels to the crucifixion. And so I think Jesus is pointing to this on purpose. But verse 27 is the part that I want you to recognize. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord. This is verse 27 of Psalm 22. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations shall worship before you. For kingship belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. See, this is what Jesus was doing. Jesus, by this crucifixion and by his resurrection, was establishing this new kingdom of grace. This opportunity of salvation, where at some point we would recognize the kingship of Jesus. And so we see the power of this crucifixion happening and fulfilling the promise of the scriptures. So that in verse 51, when we see the curtain torn from the temple and we hear the earth shake and rocks split, and then we see tombs opened up and bodies of saints who'd fallen asleep raised. We see all these amazing things. And the centurion, This is where I love this, because here's a man who has no clue about Jesus. He has no idea. This guy probably was familiar a little bit with what was going on, but he's been listening to everything that's been happening. He was probably present with all this stuff, and so he gets filled with awe. And he says, truly, this was the Son of God. What an amazing event the crucifixion was. But more importantly, what an amazing event is still about to come. We'll talk more on that soon. Have a blessed day.